The COVID-19 pandemic dealt the Russian film industry a severe blow, but did not kill it off. Several high-profile premieres are planned for 2022, which are bound to be of interest to world cinema lovers. We have prepared for you the most popular and expected Russian films. Part 1.
"11 Silent Men" is a 2022 Russian sport drama film. The film is the story of the legendary trip of Soviet football players, FC Dynamo Moscow, to Great Britain in November 1945. An incredible story, based on real events, full of romance, good humor, spy adventures and football passions. November 1945. Football club Dynamo Moscow players fly to London to play a series of matches with hitherto undefeated British teams, including Chelsea and Arsenal. A charming English correspondent decides to create a sensation by falling in love with the best Russian player and chooses the prettiest victim among the Soviet athletes. Local unscrupulous bookmakers also intend to profit from the tour, within the framework of which the games will be visited by hundreds of thousands of fans. But the 11 Silent Men, as the British dubbed the local football players, will present many surprises to everyone. Soviet football players not only did not lose a single match, but also won the hearts of the English public, completely turning its idea of a Russian person and a Soviet country upside down. Dynamo became a symbol of the New World, which was born on the ruins of the Second World War. In the not-too-distant future, mankind has made huge advances in its explorations of the cosmos, establishing scientific stations on many planets. An international project known as Gemini has resulted in the development of a unique planet terraforming unit. But once the unit is launched, Earth loses connection with the carrier rocket transporting the unit outside the solar system. The search leads to nowhere, the unit is lost. Some time has passed before one day a group of astrophysicists receive a mysterious signal from space. It seems to originate on a remote and as yet uncharted planet. The signal creates dangerous irregularities in the Earth's environment. An expedition is made to the planet itself in order to locate the source of the signal. A small group of people, the vanguard of humanity, sets off into the unknown. They must endure dramatic and even tragic events to save the Earth from this dire threat.
This is a fantasy saga, based on the series of novels by Vera Kamcha, Reflections of Eterna, the best historical fantasy in the post-Soviet space, according to the version of the world of fantasy. On the planet Cardiana, where life resembles 17th century Europe, a fierce power struggle is underway. The nobles are fighting for the throne, and the mystics want to subjugate the whole world. But they all seem to have forgotten that the Great Break is approaching. And the consequences can turn into a disaster for the entire planet.
Этерна.
Все высшие чины гитлеровской Германии находятся здесь, перед лицом народов мира.
1945 year. The International Military Tribunal begins work in Nuremberg. The trial, which will later be called the process of the century, attracts a huge number of people from all over the world. The city is overflowing with journalists, lawyers, translators, witnesses and many participants and employees of the process. 6 months after the surrender of Nazi Germany, the world is seized with anxiety and hope. Having agreed on the creation of the UN, the victorious countries, USSR, USA, Great Britain and France, decide what to do with Nazi war criminals. The German city of Nuremberg becomes the site of a unique international military tribunal, which is followed by the whole world.
Based on real events. On August 24, 1981, students Volodya and Larissa fly home from their honeymoon trip to Blagoveshchensk. The plane collides with the Soviet bomber aircraft. Minutes of a protracted peek of the wreckage of the plane, with Larissa's seat, an incredible coincidence, and a miracle happens. A fragile 20-year-old girl survives a fall from a height of more than 5 kilometers. Alone in the taiga, wounded, without the slightest hope of salvation, she struggles for several days with hunger, cold and wild animals. And all because she has someone to live for. Larissa is trying to find her beloved. She believes that she will find him alive and they will return home. The movie is inspired by the true story of the making of Moscow Strikes Back, a documentary film directed by Ilya Kopolin and Leonid Varlamov that was shot and produced in an unprecedentedly short timeframe. It won an Oscar for Best Documentary Feature at the 1943 Academy Awards ceremony, the first such event ever to give awards for documentaries.
Я нашел первого номинанта.
The film follows two student cinematographers who, as the war approaches Moscow, refuse to be evacuated and instead volunteer to be frontline cameramen capturing the horrors of war and heroism of the Soviet soldiers. At the same time, we witness another storyline taking place in the US. After the premiere screening of the already completed documentary Moscow Strikes Back, one of the members of the Academy Awards Selection Committee is trying to persuade his fellow colleagues to establish a new category of Best Documentary in the upcoming Oscars event.
Разгром немецких войск под Москвой.
Place of one of the dead hero was inserted another, and the born myth of the invincible Soviet soldier. The film The Red Ghost is about the hope that each soldier will have. Infiltration is a 2021 Russian action war film. Ivan sets off on a dangerous mission into Syria to save his ex-commander Gray after his capture by ISIS. Driven by ethics of brothers in arms, Ivan infiltrates Syria under the name of Ops Observer John.
Минуты застыли в морщинах, освобожденный Джанго Тарантино.
US military patrol helps him to free Gray and the other hostage, a Muslim soldier from Chechnya, where Ivan was kept as prisoner of war many years ago. ISIS terrorists start chasing them, and Gray is seriously wounded. Ivan has to overcome his initial mistrust and rely on his former enemy to escape from the brutal battlefield, saving not only their lives, but also the life of a little local girl.
Ну ты, Джон, я знаю, моя жена постоянно мне об этом говорит.
Sky is a 2021 Russian aviation action war film. The film is about three Russian officers with different backgrounds who converge at the Khmeimim military base, involved with the shootdown of a Russian Su-24 by a Turkish F-16 over Turco-Syrian airspace in 2015, and the rescue of the crew shortly after. The film is based on events on November 24, 2015. During a combat flight, their Russian Sukhoi Su-24 fighter jet was shot down by a Turkish fighter in northern Syria. Peshkov and Muraktan ejected, but Peshkov was still shot by terrorists in the air.
Трос! Есть! Байкер-группе. Общий отход.
Defending Russia's economic interests in Africa turns into a humanitarian mission in a fierce confrontation with the militants. Granite, as one of the most durable rocks, embodies the character of the protagonist, who is a type of Russian warrior, tough but humane, ruthlessly beating enemies and protecting the weak. In the story, African jihadists destroy the village of 13-year-old Ose and his older brother Luis, after which they offer the guys to join their ranks for death. Luis agrees despite his brother's objections. Mozambique asks Russia for help in the fight against militants. A special group, led by a commander named Granite, arrives in the country.
Своими людьми рискуют.
Saving Pushkin, also known as Saving Legacy, is a 2021 Russian war drama film. 1944. Russia, Michalovskoye Village, Memorial House of Pushkin. Some of the local residents became a partisan, another began to cooperate with the invaders, and left-handed Sergei did not choose any side and decided to just wait. Suddenly, a professor of literature, Maria Schiller, arrives from Germany. Maria Schiller, a German professor of literature, comes here from Germany to educate Wehrmacht soldiers and local peasants. She tells the Wehrmacht soldiers and local residents about Alexander Pushkin. Her actions lead to the disapproval of German military commanders. A local resident named Sergei starts a forbidden romance with a German lady. Soon afterwards, Berlin orders to bring all historic values out of the country. Sergei decides to save the country's heritage at all costs. Pushkin's patrimony should stay in Russia, even if it